Hi, I'm Alexa, and welcome. I Sorry I missed Saturday. I wanted the day off, so I took the day off and I just relaxed the whole day. Did not put any pressure on myself to get anything done, to go anywhere, do anything, and it was absolutely glorious, everything I needed. So that's what I did. Uh, Recently, I think I mentioned this in my last video. I've been playing self-care bingo. So what we did is we had the sort of bingo cards with various self-care things on them, and then we took a month where we were trying to do as many of these things as we could, and they could be some of them were more simple, like walk away from your desk, stretch, one that is a couple I didn't have were, like, screamed or, like, listen to your favorite music, your favorite song, or, I did have watch your favorite movie, had fun with someone, made someone smile, like, all sorts of just little things, and then there was some bigger things as well. And we then in a team meeting, we pulled like a bingo game, and if it came out and we had completed it, we were able to cross it off. And I think that the key thing was we had a little bit of fun together as a team. And then also, a lot of these things are super simple to do. And a lot of them we do every day without thinking about it. And sometimes just being that little tiny bit more mindful about, oh, I am taking a break from my desk. I'm going to enjoy this couple of minutes while I go get another cup of coffee, cup of tea, whatever it is you drink. When I go to the bathroom, I'm going to take 2 minutes just to stretch, get away from my desk, move my shoulders, unlock them, whatever it is. If you're just that little bit more mindful, sometimes that benefit of knowing I did have a little break and now I can go back and work on something else, or that stretch was really good. Maybe you're going to stretch a little bit more often because you remember stretching feels good. Like whatever it is, um, we had some bigger ones. We made some gratitude lists. Like we ended a meeting on time. Like there was just different things in there. Had lunch with a coworker was one. Had lunch with a family. Had lunch with a friend. Like this list was there were all sorts of things on there, and it really did highlight how simple things can be self-care. And I go to my hairdresser on a regular cadence. I've been seeing the same hairdresser for years now. She's great. I absolutely appreciate her. I went tonight and I don't normally get to like people to see my hair after because I normally go after work. So then when even if it's styled, like, by the next morning, it's not really styled anymore, and, like, you have to shower as well somewhere in there. So I was like, "Oh, today's a great day." She actually did a little curl. It's getting kind of Farrah Fawcett-y, I think. Not quite there. It's not quite as long, and I don't have as much of the short bits around my face, but she definitely cut some shorter bits, which let it bounce back up again. She did style it, so it's not always this. I mean, if you've seen any of my other videos, it's not always this curly. Takes a little bit of work to get it to look like this, but it makes me so happy. And even if it's just me and nobody else sees it, um, it's a self-care thing, right? And I think a lot of people enjoy getting their haircut. And listen, if getting your haircut is not the thing for you as a self-care thing, that's fine too. That's why self-care is self-care. You have to figure out what it is that you like. So, got my haircut, feeling pretty happy about it. Not sure how long I will let it grow longer. It's getting really quite long. It's already like down to here. So, yeah, longer than I've had it in several years. And yeah, enjoying it. And the other thing that I have for tonight is this book, Economic Facts and Fallacies by Thomas Sowell. Not sure how you say it, but that's how you spell it. Sowell. This book has several chapters, and each one uh, talks about the facts and fallacies in a specific area. So the first chapter talks about what a fallacy, however you say that, whatever your accent is, you know what I'm saying. The power of them. Why can they be so catching, and how do we why do we continue and perpetuate them, right? As people, as societies. And then the chapters then split it down by categories. So urban, male, female, academic, income, racial, and third world. Facts and fallacies, and then parting thoughts. This is definitely a pretty, so more of what I would call an academic book. It's more research papery. There are literally 30 pages. If I put this over here and block the light, every single one of these, there's 30 pages of this. They are citations throughout the book. It's just citations of every paper, resource cited. It's incredible to have put all of this together. Um, and it's the citations are split up by chapter. So like, let's see, what chapter? Chapter 2 had 81 separate citations. Some of them was the same resource cited more than once, but I would not say that anything in there was mind blowing, like that didn't make sense, that wasn't like, yeah, okay, that, understandable. Um, I was the last chapter before the summary was the one about third world, and that was talking about how Argentina was in the top 10 um, in terms of income and gross domestic product, and basically it was a very wealthy country towards the beginning of the last century, the 1900s, before the world wars, that. And then policies that they made that essentially nationalized, they kicked immigrants out, they kicked research, not research, they kicked some of they kicked immigrants out, but the immigrants were very learned scientists, businessmen, etc., etc., and they took control of several industries. And well, they were not experts in those industries, and it went downhill, and they have still not recovered decades later from that change in policies. They did apparently, I don't want to misquote it, but I believe they did reopen the borders in a way and like get rid of some of the more extreme Argentina only things. And it's not just Argentina, there's other examples, but I didn't realize that they had been so uh rich, for want of a better word. I knew that the Peron years damaged the country, um, but I wasn't aware quite how much. So, I mean, that's one fact that did kind of stick with me. But there's other facts in there in terms of, for example, the top 10 or 20, I forget what it was, wealthiest countries, and the top 10 or 20 least wealthiest, um, 50 years ago. They like to say today that, oh, income equality between the top and the bottom has expanded. But what they don't tell you is that the top countries and the bottom countries are not the same as it was 50 years ago. And if you study those countries, the top and the bottom, the inequality has actually lessened between them. And so one of the things that I have been learning sort of over and over again for the past few years, or just seeing more examples of it rather than learning it again, seeing examples of it, identifying examples of it, is we're not comparing apples to apples. We're comparing oranges to oranges. And some of this comes from communication, from quite literally, a word can mean one thing to me and something else to someone else, right? And 10 people can think that word means 10 different things. And unless you seriously align on what that word means, what that data is that you're looking at, and you confirm that everyone understands that, like, when we say this number, we are talking about this specific thing, it's very easy for people to have different conclusions about what that data means because they think it's they don't realize what it's actually showing us. And I've been on both sides of it where I knew what it was and where I didn't know what it was. And there have been times where I have accepted facts from people who were at the time subject matter experts, right? And it made sense what they were saying to me. But as I learned more about their department or their field of study or whatever it is we were talking about, as I learned more about it and I asked more questions, it became clear that what I thought they were telling me is not what they were actually telling me, and that there was that discrepancy. And sometimes people have said, "No, you're misunderstanding it," and explained it to me a little better too. So one of the things I try very hard to do, and one of the things that I hope I have promoted throughout most of my videos is that language matters and words matter, and not just the words you choose, but making sure that everyone understands the words as you are using them. So I believe I've given some examples from when I moved from England to America on words having different meanings. And even within America, where I've moved to different regions, words have different meanings. And even if that meaning is just slightly different, you have to make sure that everyone knows what you're meaning. And as a recipient, when you're listening to other people, it's important to try and figure out what they're saying, what they're intending, what they're meaning. What are they actually conveying versus what you think it was because of your understanding of the words, or in my case, my understandings of the words. I'm going to try and find some I hope a couple people that are in my life have read or will read this book, just because I know that while there wasn't anything mind-blowing, I wanna know what's next, and I wanna learn more about it, and I want to go forwards from here and learn more. It sort of caught my interest, and one of the ways I do that is by talking with people. So, um we'll see who I can get to read it. Few people in my life that I'm thinking one person might have read it during their degree. They did like an economics or finance or degree or something like that, so they might have read it. But yeah, it was just interesting. It really makes you think if excuse me, if you go in with an open mind and you're open to hearing what the book says, it can make you think about a lot of other stuff more critically. And I don't mean negatively, like criticism. I mean critically, objectively, like you take emotion out and you kind of look at what are the facts and what is the data? What is the data actually saying versus what do you want the data to say? That's a really big one that we as humans, we try and I've mentioned confirmation bias. I found a list that I had written of topics, and confirmation bias, and I think the opposite is falsification bias, but I'd have to double check if that's right. That's a topic I do want to do, but data is just data. The conclusions we take from the data, that's on us. And we can either decide to see what we want to see in it, or whether that's positive proves or disproves what we're trying to disprove or prove. We often see what we want to. If we want something to be negative, then we'll find the stuff to disprove it, and if we want it to be proven right, then we'll find the data for that. So, yeah, I don't know. This book has sort of it's just like in the back of my brain, just sort of, hmm, what about, just sort of there at the back of my brain constantly. So again, nothing mind blowing, but that's what's on my mind, and that's real life. I find a topic and I get interested in it, and then there'll come a point where I'll be like, okay, I know enough. I'm done. I'm moving on. So this is what I got for you tonight. Again, I do apologize I wasn't here on Saturday. I just I just had a day for me, and it was exactly what I needed at the time. So, if you made it this far, thank you. If you wanna go read this book, it's, your library should have it, or, I mean, I got it off of Amazon, so it's out there. And if not a book, maybe a haircut. Do something kind for yourself. Be kind to yourself, and I will see you next time.